provide fiscal relief for taxpayers by reducing the applicable minimum tax rate for 2 consecutive years of assessment, as well as reforming the commencement and cessation rules for small businesses. D, propose measures to fund the federal government's COVID-19 pandemic response and introduce provisions to enhance the recovery of corporate donations towards responses for the COVID-19 pandemic as well as any similar crisis in the future. E, amend certain aspects of the Fiscal Responsibility Act to align this act with the 1999 Constitution as amended, as well as to enhance fiscal efficiencies by controlling the cost to revenue ratios of key state and government-owned enterprises. And F, amend the Public Procurement Act to implement key procurement reforms previously proposed by the National Assembly in 2019 to extend the scope of the Act to the federal judiciary and legislature, accelerate procurement processes, increase mobilization fee thresholds, and provide for essential e-procurement reforms. I trust that this bill will be favorably considered by the National Assembly to accelerate its passage into law so as to support the implementation of the 2021 federal budget. Please accept, Right Honorable Speaker, the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Honorable colleagues, I have 3 key announcements from the Chairman, Business and Rules. Very important announcements. Conferees of the Federal University of Technology, Auchi, House Bill 522. Honorable members may wish to note that the House of Representatives has passed the Federal University of Technology, Auchi bill, and same was passed by the Senate with some difference. The following members are appointed as conferees to harmonize the areas of differences of the bill. They are Honorable Abubakar Hassan Fulata, Chairman; Honorable Ademori Kuye, Member; Honorable Gaza Jonathan, Member; Honorable Oguma Johnson, Member; Honorable Naji Prince Cornelius, Member; and Honorable Aliu Mukhtar Betara, Member. The second announcement. Honorable members may wish to note that the provision of the House of Representatives standing orders, any legislative measure referred to any committee must be reported within 60 days. It is on record that quite a number of bills and other legislative measures have been in committees for more than 60 days. Consequently, committee chairmen are requested to submit reports of bills and motions referred to their committees on or before January 31st, 2021, failure of which the House may take the necessary action to discharge the committees of same. I believe this announcement this is not the first time this announcement has been made, but I think this is going to be the final announcement. So take note that by 31st of January, all committee reports should have been submitted, otherwise they'll be discharged. Submission of soft copy of draft bills. I wish to inform honorable members who wish to introduce bills that they should endeavor to send along the hard and soft copies of same. The soft copies should be sent to the Committee on Rules and Business, Room 6, White House, House of Representatives. You are kindly requested to oblige, please. Honorable Abubakar Fulata. Honorable colleagues, I have a statement. I believe we have a motion. We have a motion on the Dastardly Act that came up in Borno State. I believe that motion will be tabled by Honorable Satome. But before that, I have a short statement on it because it is well important that our position is represented. So good morning, honorable colleagues. In the towns and villages of the Northeast, our fellow citizens have been and continue to be the first victims of a brutal insurgency that seeks to destroy our country and remake our world in the image of a discredited ideology. On Saturday, the 28th of November 2020, 43 of our fellow citizens in the town of Zabamari were cruelly murdered and decapitated by insurgents of the Boko Haram terrorist organization. 43 people who set out to their farms to harvest their meager yields became in one afternoon the newest victims of the evil that has brought untold grief to too many for far too long. For more than a decade, we have confronted the evil that is Boko Haram. We have not won and do not come close to winning the war against terrorism in Nigeria. Yes, we have recovered territory and land in places where not so long ago the black flags of Boko Haram flapped in the desert air as an affront to our nationhood and a rebuke to the failures that brought us to that ignoble end. The federal government has done so much and done all it can, or as much as it can, but yet this remains unabated. We must rethink this war on terror. We must ask ourselves what it is we are doing wrong. What have we failed to do? How is it that despite the billions in resources and despite the giant strides and spirited efforts of the federal government and the countless lives lost, we still are at the mercy of murderers who offer only the promise of death and the certainty of destruction and condemnation in this life and the next? Now is the time to ask difficult questions. We ask these questions in the sincere hope that through our collective and concerted search for answers, we might arrive at a solution that spares us further bloodshed. We ask these questions in the hope that the answers we find will heal our land and make our people whole. We ask these questions because we must. In the legislative agenda of the 9th House of Representatives, we have committed to specific strategic goals, including improved funding of security agencies, better engagement with local communities, innovative, proactive, and technological-driven responsiveness, among others. These goals will help us to achieve the overall goal of a more secure country where people can go about their business free from terror in whatever form. Whilst we seek lasting solutions to the problems that threaten us, improving the lives of the people who have lost the most from this conflict must be part of our commitment in the interim. We will consider interventions that compensate the people of Zabamari for the loss of their harvest, so that they are not so deprived that they return quickly to the killing fields where already they have lost so much. We will not deviate from these commitments. The continued existence of our country and the progress of our nation's people depend on it. And all of us honorable members of this House of Representatives, God bless you. The memory of the departed, may he grant succor to the ones they've left behind. God bless you all. Before we go to Honorable Satome's motion, I think there's a before we go there, are there any petitions, please? Petition, Chairman Education. Comrade. Congratulations. Yeah, please go ahead, comrade. Any other petition?
Right Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, I am Chinyere Igwe. I represent Port Harcourt Federal Constituency of Rivers State. Mr. Speaker, I have a petition from T.A. Amade and Co., barristers, solicitors, and notary public, writing on behalf of Mr. Eric Bombs, the law-abiding citizen of Port Harcourt. This petition is intended to correct the dehumanization, abuse, and other unbearable human rights abuses that can lead to civil unrest. Mr. Speaker, by account permission, I seek your indulgence to present this petition so that we can avoid crisis in the oil city of Rivers State. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Chinyere. Please lay your petition. Any other petition? I have to look. Okay, let me start from here again. Go ahead. Shaba.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, distinguished colleagues, my name is Shaba Ibrahim. I represent Lokoja Kogi Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I have a petition from a constituent by name Sambo Henry, who complains of wrongful termination of employment against the management of Nigeria Social Insurance Trust Fund, and who seeks the intervention of this Honorable House so that justice can be served. With your kind permission, Mr. Speaker, may I move to have this petition laid before the House?
Honorable Shaba, please lay your petition.
Thank you, sir.
Any other petition on this side? All petitions are referred to the Committee on Public Petition. Honorable Yusuf Gagde.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Yusuf Dagdi. I rise to move a motion of urgent national importance on the need to respond to the deliberate attempt by a member of the British House of Commons to cause crisis in Nigeria by making false allegations capable of inciting violence against one of my constituents, who is a former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, and causing breach to peace. Mr. Speaker, I consider it very urgent, so much so that I urge to move a motion to suspend Order 8 Rule 4 and any other relevant rule of the House to enable me move this motion. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Osaya. I thought sorry earlier. Okay, Honorable Labejide. Okay, Honorable
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to move this motion of urgent national importance on the need to respond to the deliberate attempt by a member of a British House of Commons to cause crisis in Nigeria by making false allegations capable of inciting violence against the former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, and causing breach to peace. The House, Mr. Speaker, may wish to note that on the 23rd of November 2020, the British House of Commons, acting on a petition organized by some Nigerians at home and abroad, held a special session to debate the response by the federal government of Nigeria to the NSAS protest and the attendant loss of life and properties following the aftermath of the demonstration. Further note, Mr. Speaker, that during the debate, Tom Tugendhorn, a conservative member of parliament for Tonbridge and Miley, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee of the House of Commons, had accused former head of state of Nigeria, General Yakubu Gowon, of making half of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, with him when he went on exile to the United States after he was toppled in the military coup. Aware that Tom Tugendhorn, member of parliament, did not at any time of speaking provide any evidence to support the weighty allegation he had made against the General Yakubu Gowon, and has not since that time of making such allegations provided any evidence in support of his claims. Further aware, Mr. Speaker, that Tom Tugendhorn, MP, by his position as the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee of the House of Commons, and having himself served as an army officer raising to the rank of a lieutenant colonel in the territorial army, understand that allegations of this nature met without evidence and unsupported by any known fact can have a consequences in affecting a country like Nigeria. Concerned, Mr. Speaker, that the member of the parliament made those remarks for the records in the House of Commons without due regard for any year of cordial relationship between our two countries, and without first using diplomatic channel available to him to ascertain the veracity of his position or to seek evidence in support of the claim he intends to make in Parliament. Disturbed, Mr. Speaker, that despite the barrage of condemnation by well-meaning and right-thinking people from all over the world and an official request for restriction by the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, neither Tom Tugendhorn, MP, nor the government he represents has thought it fit and proper to act to correct the inconsiderate and dangerous statement made on the integrity of the General Yakubu Gowon. Further disturb, Mr. Speaker, that the recalcitrant of the member of the parliament in this matter gives credence to suggestion in certain quarters that the careless utterance was not made in error, but rather it is a calculated attempt to exploit the faultiness of Nigerian society to create conflict, exacerbate crisis, and create conditions that make government doubtful and progress impossible. The House resolved, Mr. Speaker, to 1, mandate the Speaker of the House of Representatives to write to the Speaker of the House of Commons to A, express the displeasure of the House of Representatives that the member of the House of Commons have taken advantage of parliamentary privileges to disregard a former head of state of Nigeria, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in the person of General Yakubu Gowon, and to make statement against him, which in other circumstances will be libelous and subject to sanction. B, demand that the member of the parliament, Tom Tagihat, offers a public apology to General Yakubu Gowon and to the people and government of Nigeria for making claim in parliament that are capable of creating conflict, breaching the peace in Nigeria, and equally destroying the hard-earned reputation of General Yakubu Gowon. 2, invite the British High Commission to the Federal Republic of Nigeria to explain to this honorable House why, despite demand by citizens and government alike, the government of Britain has failed to offer any apology for the action of Tom Tagihat, MP and chairman of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee of the House of Commons, knowing fully well that the effect of such statement can have in a country such as ours. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Honorable Dati.
Contribution, okay. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, my distinguished colleagues. I remain Honorable Garba Detti Mohammed. I represent Sabon Gari Federal Constituency. I rise to second this motion as ably moved by Honorable Gagdi.
Honorable Gagdi, I think your motion is very simple, but I'll give you just 30 seconds to flesh it and then we'll move on.
To state, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a representative of General Yakubu Gowon in the House of Representatives, and looking at the commitment of General Yakubu Gowon in making sure that the unity of this country stands, Yakubu Gowon is one of the least head of states that any other country will destroy his hard-earned reputation by alleging that he went away with over half of central bank fund. An institution like Parliament in the United Kingdom should not have made that statement without any evidence. Mr. Speaker, any right-thinking Nigerian knows the commitment of General Yakubu Gowon to this country, where he fought civil war to ensure that the country remain united and the country remain one. Mr. Speaker, everybody knows how respected General Yakubu Gowon is. And nobody have ever had General Yakubu Gowon linked to any corrupt activities in this country. It beats my imagination and imagination of many Nigerians for a member of parliament to stood on the floor of the United Kingdom Parliament and make such libelous allegations against the reputation of General Yakubu Gowon. Mr. Speaker, it's a straightforward motion. We know that the target is not aimed at destroying Yakubu Gowon as an individual. It's further to some of us, we have given it divination to an extent that the aim is to further create disunity among Nigerian people so that we will not trust the leaders that will be able to intervene in the situation that Nigeria is facing. Nigeria needs people like General Gawang to continue to play statement role and to continue to play leadership position by advising all sectors of Nigeria to remain one. Mr. Speaker, what we read in universities and secondary school, General Yakubu Gawang is one of the head of state that came with the National Development Plan, which is geared at bringing different ethnic groups in Nigeria to stay together. And he is one of the performing head of state. Therefore, the statement made by the UK House of Commons is unacceptable to the people of Nigeria. And I insist, Mr. Speaker, while calling on my colleague to contribute to this motion, that the United Kingdom government must apologize to this country. And Mr. Speaker, I urge you to make your position known to the House of Parliament in the UK. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Osai, are you speaking for? Okay, well then when we get to your turn. The Chairman Foreign Affairs. Yeah, okay. I think we're back on now. So I believe the issue raised by Honorable Muba about diplomatic immunity, I'm not sure, but I don't think it relates to engagement with authorities as opposed to, I think it speaks only to immunity from prosecution, diplomatic immunity from prosecution. Honorable colleagues, we really need to move on. I think we really need to move on. We were all, what's this amendment? Honorable Chinda, what's the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues. Kingsley Chinda, Obiakpo Federal Constituency, Rivers State. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, if I'm permitted to lay a background to the amendment, I very, very, very much respect the former president of this country, who is impeccable and has never been associated with any issue of corruption. However, Mr. Speaker, that comment was made in a parliamentary committee. It is not the position of the British Parliament. Therefore, I would suggest that rather than write the British Parliament, we step down the prayers and urge our Committee on Foreign Affairs and Interparliamentary Relations to investigate the comment and report back to us within 4 weeks for further parliamentary action. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Any second? Olododoku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name remains Olododoku Abdulganiu, speaking for the people of Ilorin East, Ilorin South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion raised by my senior colleagues, Honorable Chinda. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Those in support of the motion, those in support of the amendment, please say aye. The ayes have it. Before amendment? What's the amendment? Any seconder? Seconder? Any seconder? Your mic. Those in support of the amendment, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. The nays have it. Honorable colleagues, before I put the question, before I put the question, this motion, and I must thank Honorable Gagdi for bringing it up, has generated a lot of discourse nationally and internationally. As for Honorable Chinda's amendment, which has some merit to it, I still believe that even under rules of Parliament, anything spoken or done at the committee level, and that's why we have to be very careful at committees. The committees actually represent the House, and it's even in our rules that the committees represent the House, and that's why there has to be, we cannot hide under the fact that it was spoken at the committee level, but the amendment has carried and it does have some merit. We were all aghast at this unfortunate vituperation by a member of Parliament, and because it is a parliament-to-parliament issue and it was discussed in Parliament, notwithstanding at committee level, it's important that we address it, especially as it affects perhaps our longest-serving head of state. The parliamentary protection for statements made in the chambers intends to allow for free and spirited debate in the best interest of the public. It is not meant to be used as a shield and not as a sword. Honorable Tom Tugenda, a Conservative member of the British Parliament of Commons, took advantage of this privilege to launch grievous and baseless allegations against General Yakubu Gowon. Unfortunately, this was an act that deserves of the most spirited rebuke. All of us in Nigeria are still grappling with the lessons of our nation's history. We are not helped in this regard by the cynical interventions of people who do not seek our nation's upliftment, but will gladly exploit our fault lines to score cheap political points. The resolutions as made by this Parliament will be conveyed to the head of Parliament, the head of the British Parliament, accordingly. So I'll just put the question, assuming that the resolution is carried. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Ayes have it. Honorable Satome. My mic doesn't even disturb, but there's something. Maybe you might want to take off your mask a little bit.
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Engineer Satomi Ahmed. I stand under Rule 4 Order 8 to enable the House suspend all our relevant rules for me to carry out this motion of urgent public importance. Myself and 9 of my co-sponsors of this motion. I so move, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okay, Honorable Osai.
It's right, it's one. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues. I remain Honorable Osai, Nicholas Osai. I represent Doko Okwani Federal Constituency of Delta State. I rise to second the motion, ably moved by my fellow colleagues. I so second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Send me a text, let me see. Yeah, those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I stand to move a motion of urgent public importance myself and 9 of my co-sponsors. All of us are from Borno State, for the urgent need to condemn and investigate the insane killing of unarmed farmers in Jere local government of Borno State. Among the sponsors, Mr. Speaker, including the Deputy Whip, the Minority Leader, Shehu Koko, and many more, because of its sympathetic nature of how brutally these young farmers, some of them are even secondary school students. I so move to take the motion. Mr. Speaker, the House pained that more than 43 people were killed in an instant and barbaric attack of rice farmers in Zabarmari, Jere local government of Borno State on the 28th November 2020. Troubled that the attackers tied up agricultural laborers working in rice fields and slit their throats, some beheaded in Zabarmari, Koshebe, Gudda axis of Borno State, village near Jere local government. Disturbed that some of the victims were laborers of other states of the Federation who had traveled to work on the rice farm field in Borno State. Worried that the exact number of people killed in the incident is not yet known, over 44 dead bodies were recovered, buried, all of them slaughtered along with 6 others with serious injuries, and many more residents are reported missing. Recognize that the funeral of the victims on the Sunday 29th of November 2020, Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Umar Azilim, MNI FNSC, stated that our people are in very difficult situation. They are in 2 different extreme conditions. In one side, if they stay at home, they may be killed by hunger and starvation. On the other hand, they go out for their farmlands and risk getting killed by insurgents. More by the inability of the military and other security forces in averting the continued wanton killing of Boko Haram insurgents, bandits, terrorists in the northeast and across the country. Aware that President Muhammad Buhari has condemned the senseless killing of several hard-working farmers by terrorists as the entire country is hurt by the discharge. Also aware of the urgent need for the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to recognize the security architecture of the country, to end the insurgency in the northeast, banditry in the northwest, and all acts of terrorism across Nigeria. Resolve to ask the federal government to declare a state of emergency in the nation's security sector. Condemn the killing of unarmed civilian and farmers of Zabarmari village of Jere Federal Constituency in Borno State by suspected Boko Haram insurgency on Saturday. Call on the central bank to immediately key in the farmers at Zabarmari and environs to the dry season rice farming project and look into the ongoing ANCO program to proper harvest and recovery for their ANCO project. The House should set up a committee to commiserate with the Governor of Borno State immediately. Observe a minute silence in honor of the victim of the incidents that lost their lives. I so moved, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Would you?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My name is Engineer Muhammad Ali Wudil. I represent Wudil Garko Federal Constituency, Mr. Speaker. I'm from Kano State. I rise to second the all-important motion moved by my colleague, Engineer Satomi. I so moved, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Engineer Satomi, I think this is, I listened carefully to your motion. It's very comprehensive and all-encompassing, but please, can you just, for a minute, before we take any amendment or put the question, just flesh it out a little bit, just for a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, I'm too emotional to talk because but I want to say a little bit because I was part of the first team that went for the evacuation of the victim. It's very, very unfortunate and pathetic, Mr. Speaker. But I want to call on the federal government, particularly looking at the deliberations we made in this chamber in the first 19 months from 2019 June to date. From my statistic, this chamber discussed over 206 security issues. But believe me, action is not yet as expected. The first prayer of this motion, declaring the state of emergency in the security sector, will enable the federal government to think and the military and other security formation in a wider perspective to reorganize, re-strategize their tactics of fighting the insurgency and other forms of terrorism across Nigeria, not only Boko Haram. Killing of the 43 young men in their farmlands who are beneficiaries of a wonderful program of a Central Bank of Nigeria. If you look at the yield and how committed the young people are, majority of the victims are from Kebbi, Sokoto, Zamfara, to come and work to earn their means of livelihood, either as laborers or as part of ration after proper yield being shared to them. But unfortunately, they were slaughtered, killed. This is a new tactic adopted by the Boko Haram because they developed a friendship pattern where they show sign that they are not touching the farmers when the farmers has already developed confidence up to the level that they are sleeping in their farms. But over the night, they invite them in one way or the other, tactically slaughtered them because of the swampy nature of the axis. Vehicles, guns are not being used by the terrorists. So therefore, in looking at the security architecture, new modalities, tactics, input must be introduced in fighting this crime. The fight against insurgency is a new to the Nigerian military because it's a guerrilla war. And if you are fighting a guerrilla war, you have to break all the rule of engagement before facing these terrorists. So therefore, I call on strong terms, particularly the presidency, to look into the prayers of this National Assembly and all security measures or security advices to open up ways to listen to the legislators, to listen to the people that have technical know-how of the security situation in the country, without opening to receive information and accept that there are loopholes in the security. There is no way we can solve this program. So therefore, I call upon the federal government to adopt new tactics, new strategy to fight insurgency and all form of insecurity in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Thank you, honorable colleagues.
Amendments. Further submission on this matter.
Amendments.
Further submission to this matter.
Amendments.
Honorable Toby, the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. My name is Tobio Kechukwu. I represent an area of Boti River Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I bring these amendments and I wholeheartedly adopt the submissions made by our colleague, Honorable Salome, with regard to the killings of our citizens in Borno State. Mr. Speaker, I also make this amendment mindful of the observations of the Sultan of Sokoto that northern Nigeria or Nigeria is the most insecure place to live in this country. Two is that our farmers don't have to take permission to go to farm. Three is that we cannot be at the mercy. We have DICON, which is Defense Industries Corporation, that ordinarily should be responsible for manufacturing of arms in this country. And you know, Mr. Speaker, the Leahy law forbids any country, whether it is an allegation or it is true, that breaches human rights to import arms from the United States. And that has been responsible for the past 10 years why Nigeria is not able to import the necessary arms needed for prosecution of this war. So I will ask the House that we mandate the House Committee on Defense and Army to investigate the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria on their manufacturing status to determine their level of preparedness regarding weapons needed for national use. Two is we had ordered some equipment from overseas. So the House should mandate the House Committee on Defense and Finance to investigate the status of the procurement of $1 billion worth of equipment since 2018. Three, since non-state actors can bear arms and kill our citizens without any let or hindrance, Mr. Speaker, the House should seek an amendment to the Firearms Act to give eligible Nigerians the right to bear arms. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman, BP privatization. So the first amendment by Honorable Toby, you have seconded the first amendment. Go ahead. Oh, no. Wait. The first amendment, that's the one we're aware of. Minority Leader.
She said she raised her hand. Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Honorable Dodi Godwin Elmelu, and I represent the good people of our North Church Federal Constituency. I'm from Delta State. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as moved by Deputy Minority Leader Honorable Toby Okechukwu. I so second.
Those in support of DS.
My name is Ahmed Idris. I represent Waseferi Constituency of Plateau State. Your Excellency, I suppose that your attention should be brought to, and then the House too, because the House was a little bit rowdy. The amendments brought by my brother and colleague are in two phases. I succumb to the first amendment, but I do not succumb to the second amendment. We are already faced with the issue of insecurity. By the time you allow Nigerians now to own arms, bear arms, you are causing problem. So I want us to take the amendments one after that, will not just lump them. Thank you, sir.
No, that's exactly what we're doing. The seconder was to the first amendment. Yes. The minority leader was to this first amendment. And I believe that's the only amendment we are aware of, because this was discussed before we came in. And that's the only amendment that was discussed. So we'll take that amendment, that first one. Those in support, please say aye. Those against, please say nay. Ayes have it. Any other amendment? Please, Honorable, I don't want us to water down, please. I don't want us to water down Honorable Satome's motion. His motion was very comprehensive. His prayers were very far-reaching, covered a lot of grounds. So I don't want us to water it down. I'm seeing hands about 15, 20 amendments, which we are not going to be able to take, and I'm sorry. So, Honorable Jaha, what's your point of order? Order 6 rule 1. What page? Please allow Honorable Jaha, please. Go ahead. Go ahead. Wait, Honorable Jah. Honorable. Honorable Jah, it's okay. Honorable Jah. Honorable Jah. Honorable Jah. This is, you have a right to move an amendment. Nobody can take that away from you. Well, this is an appeal from the chair. Because we are talking about security matters, you and I know that the channel of discussion of security matters such as this will not be to invite the president to come and disclose issues of security and what they are doing. It will be counterproductive. And I understand the feelings and the emotions which you display and which you've always displayed on issues such as this. And I share that passion, I share that emotion. But in being, as parliamentarians, we must sometimes balance it and not just be a knee-jerk with what is actually practical. Like I said, the prayers were all encompassing. By asking this president to declare a state of emergency, which was part of the prayers, it allows for extraordinary measures. That singular, there are 3 or 4 prayers, but that singular one prayer is more important than the president coming to tell us anything. If they can declare a state of emergency in security matters, it allows for the gendarmes, it allows for the mercenaries, it allows for whoever we want to bring in. Because without that state of emergency, we cannot even do what your governor is asking us to do, which is to invite mercenaries and foreign mercenaries. We cannot constitutionally do that. So that's why that prayer, the prayer was well thought out to allow extraordinary measures in a state of security emergency. So it's an appeal so that we don't react based on the... I read a statement on the floor of the House before we even started on this issue. And I hope, with the motion and the prayer, that should suffice. So, Honorable Jah, I'm appealing to you, can we just, because of what it involves in security matters, rather than asking the president to come to the House. Any seconder to the motion? The House Leader, you have something to say? Who raised up their hand there? Alims. So your point of order, which was based on, I think, privilege, is, Leader.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank you, my honorable colleagues, members of this House. I am Alhassan Ado Dogwa. I represent Dogwa Tudunwada Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am from Kano State. And by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the leave of the members of this House, I am the leader of the 9th House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice, very strong voice, to the motion moved by Honorable Satomi, Engineer Satomi. And I want to believe no single member here will have his voice away or against what Satomi has moved this morning. Everybody as a human being and as a member representing constituents and being a Nigerian, and for whatever is happening anywhere else, every part of this country is affected directly or indirectly. Honorable Satomi has spoken very well. And I believe those that are supposed to hear that have heard him very loud. Mr. Speaker, you have also exhibited openly your concern, your emotions for what is happening in the Northeast and some part of the country as well. Security is the business of government. There is no doubt about that, Mr. Speaker. The business of every government is to provide for security and welfare of the people. And wherever this security is being breached, Mr. Speaker, it causes a lot of cause for concern. I would like to, on this note, Mr. Speaker, say, while I have every support for his motion, but I would like to say that based on what you have said here, that on the basis of the nature of our security situation, Mr. Speaker, that I want to amplify on the appeal you made to Honorable Jaha, that some issues may not necessarily have to warrant inviting Mr. President to the floor of the House to come and explain. These are security issues. I also want to appeal to members of this great House that while I share the same emotion and concern for the matter raised, I want to appeal and still emphasize on the appeal by the Speaker that members do not have to go this far. I would like to appeal to you that we have so many ways to kill the rat. We have so many ways and options to reach out to executive. But we do not have to necessarily invite Mr. President to come to the floor here and explain, because certain explanations to do with the security nature of the country may be too sensitive to be expressed here in public. So
honorable colleagues, please.
Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it is on this note and on the strength on the point you made that some security issues are not only sensitive, they are too confidential to come and be discussed on the floor and to the cameras. I would like to plead with members that we will reach out to Mr. President, maybe through the leadership, and we will talk to Mr. President and whoever is involved that action has to be taken. Not just action, more action must be taken proactively to stop what is happening in the Northeast. But I plead with you to please allow the leadership of the House to manage this aspect of our concern. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and that is my take.
Was an amendment. Honorable Koko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, my name is Honorable Shehu Koko. I represent the good people of Koko, Besi, and Mahema, Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I am from Kebbi State. Sir, I am strongly in support of the opinion of the leader of the House. And the opinion of Mr. Speaker, a majority of the members of this House, that Mr. President, because of the sensitivity of the security nature, that we cannot invite Mr. President to the House to brief the House on the issue of security. Security should always be discussed in the closed door. Like I've said, Mr. Speaker, sir, I will agree that the leadership of the House should meet Mr. President in the villa. Mr. Speaker, sir, like I've said,
Like I've said, Mr. Speaker, like I've said, security issues are very sensitive. Mr. President is trying his best. Mr. President is doing his best. Like all of us know, we are the people that are affected on this. So we cannot, it's my opinion. It's my opinion. I have every right to talk. I have every right to talk. It's my opinion. Mr. Speaker, thank you for projecting what I've said. So I want to appeal that the leadership of the House should meet Mr. President in the villa to discuss this issue so that they will come back and brief the House. I also come, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Honorable colleagues, I'm going to say this and I'm going to say it on the floor. We will move to, I'm a little disappointed where, and I make it bold to say, well, a lot of this noise and shouting down there, where it's coming from. We all know, and I'm very disappointed. But for now, so that we can resolve this matter amicably, because this is not the spirit with which we started this night assembly. It's not. It's not. And we will not start a division on any basis at this stage. So now I think I will just resort to executive session and resolve this matter.